Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Football Friday. Matt Catrillo, Ian Hunter, and Alex Kozora back with us this week. Todd Giacomo is off, traveling back home for the Easter holiday this weekend, so hopefully he'll be able to rejoin us next week. And next week we have our big NFL draft show that we've done traditionally for the last couple of seasons, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And this week we are finally going to do it. We've teased it for about 2, 3, maybe even a whole month ago now, and we are finally ready to do it. It is the first annual Football Friday Mock Draft 1.0. Instead of doing it in the written version where we see a lot of those throughout the course of this time of the year, we are now going to do it kind of verbally, so this will be very interesting. So, guys, what's going on? Ready to do this?
Absolutely. This draft show, has been the proverbial football that Charlie Brown has been trying to kick. And Catrillo's been Lucy, pulling the ball away from me every week we say, okay, we're totally going to do it this weekend, no problem. And I'm like, okay, great. And I do a bunch of draft prep. I watch more tape. I'm like, okay, I'm totally in. And then every week he says, oh, no, we're not going to do it this week. So I'm actually still not convinced it's going to happen until we actually start doing it. I'm like, Catrillo's going to end this call right now, and we're going to go about our day.
He's also Charlie Brown, because that's how you kick a football in real life. So
yes.
He's both.
I actually will not disagree with that, even though I was a pretty good soccer player myself back in the day. But
back in the day. All right.
On that note, Ian, I'm going to end all of your worries, and we are officially going to get this mock draft started. So since this was your idea, you're actually going to be the host of this and kind of lead us through the way. So here we go.
Well, I can't take total credit for this because I heard they did this on the Move the Sticks podcast, and I thought it was a really good idea, especially for us because we watch a lot of tape ourselves. So we're not former NFL scouts, of course. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we have the list of the 32 picks, and we're going to go through each 32 of the picks and pick a player. So it's a mock NFL draft, essentially, is what it is. So the Cleveland Browns, the worst team I've ever seen, they have the number 1 overall pick. And Alex Kozora, you are on the clock. Who would you take if you're the Cleveland Browns?
The Steelers fan running the Browns. It's interesting. We hear a lot of the smokescreen and all this talk coming out here these last couple of days about, will they take Myles Garrett first overall, or could they go with Mitch Trubisky? I think a lot of that's rumors. A lot of it's just typical draft stuff. The smart play is one guy here. It's the best player on the board. It's going to be that guy you view as the elite talent. As important as quarterback is, you're the Browns. You need to start building up the trenches, which they did in the offseason and did it pretty well, to their credit. So, having said that, there's one name and one name only that makes sense here, especially knowing you have pick 12. It's Myles Garrett, D end from Texas A&M.
Do you have any concern, Alex, about his quote-unquote lack of production?
No, he was beat up this past year. Anytime you're the top guy, and you've been clearly the top guy basically throughout this whole process, people are going to try to nitpick at you just to make it interesting. That he's too nice, that he's bad-mouthed Cleveland before. That's all stuff that's going to be forgotten about once he's the first overall pick.
I think everyone's bad-mouthed Cleveland at some point or another. That's not really a big deal.
Yeah, be weird if he didn't.
Yeah, it definitely would be. Okay, so that means that the San Francisco 49ers are the second pick. I'm going to take this one. I'm going to go with Jamal Adams, number 2.
Ooh.
I thought about Solomon Thomas here, but they've taken defensive linemen the last 2 drafts. And while I like Solomon Thomas and he's going to be a really good player, I think that they need to address other areas of this team right now. And Jamal Adams is a guy who really brings it all. I think one thing he needs to work on is his tackling in space, but you can tell out there he's the man. I mean, the first play against Alabama, he's very physical with O.J. Howard, and his run play just bulls over O.J. Howard that's trying to block him. And from that point on, I'm like, this is the guy out there in the field. He was the man. So I think if you're San Francisco, you can build around a guy that is the man.
Yeah, I like it. It's rare to see a safety go that high, but I think Adams might warrant it, especially in a year where the top 5 might not be as strong as usual. So hard to disagree with that, especially after the great pro day workout that he had.
Ran like a 4.3, right?
Yeah, I think it reported 4.38 or some 4.33, something like that. Either way, super fast. And I think he's one of the highest safeties to ever go. Then only one defensive back's ever been taken number 1 overall. I know that for a fact. Gary Glick by the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was a horrible selection because they literally knew nothing about him. Another story, another time. So I think Adams would basically be one of the top defensive backs ever to go, but warranted, I think.
All right, that means we're going to move on to number 3, and that would go to Mr. Catrillo.
Number 3, well, we go to another team, Ian, that needs basically all the good players they can get after a dismal season. They're just really depleted on the defensive side of the ball, and especially in the secondary. So I think...
By the way, this is Chicago. We didn't mention Chicago.
Yes, it's Chicago Bears. I'm sorry, number 3. Yes. So I am going to go cornerback here for the Bears, and for me personally, I know they've been linked a lot to Marshawn Lattimore, but for me personally, and I think they might think this as well, is Tre'Davious White, I think, is the best cornerback of this draft in what is a deep cornerback class. We've talked about that before. So I think Tre'Davious White, if I'm Chicago, I choose him. Tremendous technique, quick and fast, good ball skills, just a great playmaker that the Bears really need. I love Tre'Davious White. He's very high up on my big board. He's my number 1 overall rated cornerback overall. So I like Tre'Davious White going to the Windy City.
Wow, there is a pick I did not expect to see.
But hey, I'll actually mark it down. I thought we were going to kind of go through it in relative order. Wow. Okay. That was the surprise right off the bat. Let me write that down.
Do you like him more than Con? I mean, I guess you do, but do you like him more than Conley and Lattimore and all them?
I like him over Lattimore, though. Lattimore I do have right behind him in second, and as far as my ranking of cornerbacks go. I have not watched Mike Conley yet, so I can't really comment on it. But I've heard a lot of good things about him. I just haven't been able to watch any tape. I do want to watch him before the draft comes, so maybe get back to me on that. I'll get back to you on that next week. But for right now, I like Tre'Davious White number 1.
White number 3. Whew.
All right, I guess I'm up now for Jacksonville, correct? We're gonna
that would be
around.
Yep,
Jacksonville's trying to compose themselves after what's going on in front of them. I'm going to try to bring it back a little more to the conventional, and Jacksonville can go a lot of different places. They could go with a quarterback. I don't trust Blake Bortles. I'm guessing the new coaching staff, Tom Coughlin and all that, really don't have a whole lot of faith in that pick. But you build through the trenches. Jacksonville's really put that effort to build that way. I think you're going to keep adding to that defensive line, especially with the talent at the top in this defensive line class. A versatile guy is going to be important in Jacksonville's 4-3. So I'm going to go with Solomon Thomas from Stanford, who can play the 3, can play the edge in some situations. I mean, you have Ngakoue, Fowler Jr., Malik Jackson, Solomon Thomas. That's one of the best defensive lines on paper in football, I think.
His game against North Carolina, I just sat there the entire time with my jaw hitting the floor because every play he was dominating.
Yeah, took it over.
That pick makes a lot of sense at number 4, unlike the Tre'Davious White pick, but whatever, Catrillo.
The draft does throw a curveball at us, though. You never know what's going to happen. Remember the Jacksonville Jaguars, for example, where they took Tyson Alualu.
Number 10.
Yeah, and everyone was like, whoa, that's 20 spots too high. It kind of proved to be true, but it's happened.
All right, so the Tennessee Titans are up next, getting this pick, obviously, from the Tennessee Titans. I'm up next, and I think if you're the Tennessee Titans, you're going to be absolutely thrilled that, mainly most of the high-end secondary guys are still there. So they can either take their pick of Malik Hooker or they can take Marshawn Lattimore. And I'm thinking, Alex, here, this is a Dick LeBeau defense. And this is a Dick LeBeau, when he was in Pittsburgh, they never took a cornerback, number 1, with their first pick. So I'm thinking about that. And I'm thinking that if you give a guy like Dick LeBeau, someone like Malik Hooker, think about where, what he can do with that defense if you put Malik Hooker back there. I mean, not saying that he's, people keep copying him to Ed Reed. I don't want to give him that much praise. But you give a guy that is a turnover machine to Dick LeBeau, there's no way he doesn't make good of that. So I'm going to go Malik Hooker to the Tennessee Titans with their first pick.
All about the safeties, Ian. And you scared me for a second because you said, I'm thinking Alex. I'm like, don't pick me. That's worse than Trey White. That's a terrible selection. You're not selecting. But I like the Malik Hooker pick. He's really impressive on tape. I actually might like Hooker more than Jamal Adams, to be honest with you.
I was thinking that too. I mean, there's just every time I watch Adams, I'm like, okay, I really like him. But every time I watch Hooker, I'm like, wow, this guy, every time you look, he's getting his hands on the ball. His game against Clemson was really, really impressive. All right, Mr. Catrillo, you're up next. The New York Jets are sitting at number 6. They need a multitude of things, literally. They're not a great organization. They make almost as many mistakes as the Browns, which is why they're at number 6. Who are they taking?
I think they're going to try and go defense because, as we've kind of seen through the first couple of picks, that's been the name of the game so far as we're going through here. And I think they're going to grab somebody that they need right away before everybody else goes. And they can go a number of different ways here. They can go secondary. They can go defensive line. And with Jonathan Allen still on the board at this point, I think that's where they go, and I think that's who they pick. I think Marshawn Lattimore is another consideration, but I think although as much as I like Marshawn Lattimore, I think they're going to go with Jonathan Allen to beef up that defensive line.
Okay, yeah, especially since they are most likely going to trade Sheldon Richardson. So, I mean, beefing up the defensive line, I don't think would be a bad move if you're the Jets.
Yeah, if you could trade Richardson and then get Allen right back, that makes a lot of sense. I like the pick. All right, number 7 with the LA Chargers, which is still just odd to say.
Yes.
Don't like it.
Who wants to go play in a soccer stadium for 2 years?
Yeah, no, they don't even get me. I don't think I was around to talk about how upset I was, just about these moves in general. But another day, another time. Again, Chargers again can go a lot of different directions. You think offensive line, but this offensive line class is on the weaker side of things. Maybe it's too early for Ramczyk or Garrett Bowles. Although some people think Bowles will go in the top 10. I'm going to go wide receiver here just to give Phillip Rivers that last weapon. He could go quarterback too to replace Phillip Rivers. That's not out of the question either. Oh, man, I'm debating with myself now. Should I take a quarterback because Trubisky fell and people didn't think Trubisky would? You know what? I just talked myself into it.
We're going bitch here?
Because Trubisky fell and because, the Chargers don't have any prospects of, being a Super Bowl contender. And it's going to be a low-pressure environment playing in front of 30,000 fans. That's less than the Tar Heels games. So I'm going to go Mitch Trubisky. I was going to think about Mike Williams, but Mitch Trubisky as a Chargers try to rebuild.
While that is true, Alex, about, being low pressure there in a 30,000 person stadium, I'm not a big fan. I like Mitch Trubisky. I think him and Deshaun Watson, I think, are kind of neck and neck, but I don't like any of these quarterbacks this high, but I get with the quarterback value, the draft stock's going to rise and kind of takes more precedent. So I guess I kind of see why they pick him there. I just don't like him personally when you evaluate him on tape as a top 10 pick. I think.
How early would you take Trubisky or Watson? Where's your starting point?
My starting point is early second round.
Oh, so no first-round grades on any of these
I have no first-round grades on any of these quarterbacks, but I am conscious of the fact that they are quarterbacks, so their stock's obviously going to rise.
Right.
Teams are going to attempt to reach because, they obviously are afraid. Other teams that are quarterback needy will try and take him earlier than usual. So I get why the Chargers would take him. I'm just not a fan when you look at the overall evaluation of any of these quarterbacks, including Mitch Trubisky, that they go in the top 10. But I guess I understand.
Who is your favorite if you can remember back, who is your favorite quarterback you liked the most coming out of college post Andrew Luck? I'm sure Luck would have been your answer that year. But, this past year, you had Wentz and Goff. Before there was Winston and Mariota, some names like that. Because it seems like you're always down on quarterbacks, Catrillo. You're very picky, which isn't a bad thing, but I know you are.
Well, I think the reason why I've been picky lately is because of just the way the college game has changed to these spread type of offenses where you have a lot of these mobile running type quarterbacks where where it's just a totally different mindset that these quarterbacks have, and they're a lot more mobile and they tend to try and run and not stay in the pocket and be a pocket passer first. But I have to say, though, I did like Marcus Mariota a lot when the Eagles were up for him, when Chip Kelly was still around. I still thought there was a possibility that he could struggle because of the way he was mobile and he was kind of reckless with the ball, and I didn't like his decision making at the time. But I think he can turn into a pretty decent NFL quarterback now that he's got a good running game to help him with, like he had a lot of his success at Oregon. But other than that, I would have to say he's probably the first one that comes to mind when you talk about recently post Andrew Luck.
I think about RG3. I thought RG3 was going to be a superstar, and he was for a year. So I was right for a little while.
Well, that was the same class as Luck, so I was talking about Pope.
Yeah.
post-luck.
Carson Wentz was so good coming out last year, though.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm up next with the Carolina Panthers, and I think if you're the Carolina Panthers, obviously Leonard Fournette is a guy that you're going to think of long and hard. But the fact that Marshawn Lattimore is still sitting there makes it really interesting if you're the Carolina Panthers. And I think this running back class is so deep, and you have another pick at the top of the second round, so there's going to be guys there as well. Get the best player here, and I think the best player is Marshawn Lattimore. I think you can get him in there, and it helps that defense considerably. A defense that fell off so much after their secondary kind of all went away. So I think that Marshawn Lattimore is the pick there.
I like the phrasing there. They all went away.
They did. They all left.
Yeah, it's good. It's a young secondary, though. Yeah, they had Darryl Roberts last year. I think James Bradbury. But, I like Lattimore. Redshirt sophomore, so a lot of growth, a lot of projection. But,
and plus, too, they haven't been able to replace Josh Norman ever since he left for Washington. So, and you can tell their pass defense really had a lot of holes in it last year. So that's the first way back up for Carolina.
All right, Mr. Petrillo, you're up next. Coming up is the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, Cincinnati, a couple different avenues they can go here. Linebacker is probably their biggest need right now, just because, other than Vontaze Burfict, they really don't have much else. Ray Beluga's out the door. I think the Bengals really like Reuben Foster. I'm not a great fan of him. I just put a story about him, just talking about it from the Redskins standpoint on Pro Football Spot this morning. And I just think there's a lot of inconsistencies with him. He's got that playmaking capability and potential, but his tackling really, to me, is almost atrocious at this point. He just can't finish. He takes a lot of high and low angles. He tends to drive his...
Hold on. Question in the front of the class.
Yes.
Which games were you watching?
I watched the Florida game, which was probably his best out of them all. That was probably his best game of the year, and the best of the 3 games I watched on tape. I watched the LSU game, where I thought he had a chance for a lot of big sacks and missed. And the other game I watched him was... I can't remember off the top of my head. I can't remember the other game off the top of my head. But overall, I just saw a lot of plays where he would try to drive his man back and not fully wrap up. But then a couple plays later, he comes and shows that ability to wrap up and make those open field tackles. But I just see a lot of inconsistencies with Reuben Foster as a playmaker, though he shows those flashes of potential. He's got great speed. He can cover sideline to sideline. I think he's got good pass coverage skills as well, good ball skills there. But overall, I just still see a guy that's a little bit inconsistent and has to work on his form tackling a little bit. So I can't.
Who's your pick here?
I still think because the Bengals, obviously they like him. I can see Foster going here. But me personally, I don't like him. I think you might see some debate among the Bengals.
Boy, you have talked around this pick the entire time. Who is your pick, Controller?
My pick officially is Reuben Foster, though. I wouldn't necessarily.
All right, there we go.
I like the pick. Last thing on Foster, are you more concerned with Foster on the field or off the field, Petrillo?
More on the field. Off the field, I know everybody's been making a big deal about what happened with the doctor, but I really don't think that's much of an issue at all.
I agree with you on the hospital thing, but I think on the field, if you look just strictly in a vacuum on the field, not considering the shoulder injury and that incident, I think it's probably a top 3 talent in this class. I'm a big fan of Reuben Foster, so we disagree there. We do, I think, agree with the off the field not being as big of a deal as some people make it out to be.
I think the only thing that scares me with Reuben Foster is his defensive line in the NFL going to be as good as the one that played in front of him at Alabama. That's the only, and it's not a him problem. It's just you just wonder what he's really going to be like.
Boy, I'm always worried about those box guys with shoulder problems too. Longevity, because you want this guy for 10 years, and that shoulder goes. It's like Joe Green. Once that nerve injury. Just
was that for the same?
It's basically with a shoulder. All right, Buffalo at 10. I've been thinking about this pick. I've already have it in mind. I think might end up being my top corner in the draft, and it's not Lattimore, it's not Conley, it's Marlon Humphrey from Alabama. Dude's 20 years old, isn't even legal to drink yet. Played 2 years for Nick Saban, was productive. He's got the height. He's 6'1", 197, ran a 4.41. Is physical, good tackler overall. He's a very fluid guy. He's able to change directions well. And just again, playing in Nick Saban's system at such a young age, earning that trust, starting as a redshirt freshman at 19 years old. Yeah, he always lumps at times. That's going to happen when you're a young kid, playing at the SEC competition. He's got experience in man zone pattern matching. Big fan of Marlon Humphrey. Love where he's going to be in 3 years. So he's going to go to Buffalo to replace Stephen Gilmore.
I like Marlon. I mean, he's been getting a ton of love, and I can't quite understand why. He's a guy with all of the intangibles. He's going to be a really good player, I think. So Marlon Humphrey goes number 10. That means the New Orleans Saints are up next. And I have that pick. And I think if you're the New Orleans Saints, you're a team that just defensively just needs someone to play defense. Literally anyone at this point to play defense. And I think the top player still on the board at this point would be Derek Barnett, the pass rusher. And while he's not maybe the most explosive guy, you just watch his tape, and his hands are so good, and he bends the edge so well and he's been so productive that I think he's going to continue being productive in the NFL. Maybe he's not an all-pro guy, but I think he's going to be a consistent guy that gets you nearly double-digit sacks every single year. And New Orleans just needs guys that can play defense. So I think Derek Barnett is the right pick for the New Orleans Saints.
All right, yeah. Barnett, people are going to think about his 40 time and how he tested the combine. He tested poorly, but remember, he was sick as a dog. I just give him credit for going out there.
He's a warrior.
Yeah, I mean, he almost didn't work out because he had like the flu. And so people look, he didn't test well. Well, don't forget why he didn't test well. He almost didn't test at all. So hold that against him. So I like the Barnett pick.
So that means the Cleveland Browns are up next. Matt Catrillo, this is the pick that the Browns got from the Philadelphia Eagles. They took Myles Garrett, number 1, and now they're sitting here at number 12.
Yeah, that is exactly right, Ian. And just like the Eagles did in making that trade with Cleveland last year, they took a quarterback, and I think Cleveland will go quarterback here, especially with Mitch Trubisky now off the board. I think they go Deshaun Watson here. As I said before, Deshaun Watson is my number 1 overall quarterback. I just like the way this kid just leads, both on and off the field, and you really saw that in all of the postseason games, including the national championship for Deshaun Watson last year. Anytime he made a bad play, came right back, made a big play down the field. Tons of big fourth quarter throws. Obviously, the game-winning touchdown pass, both in the ACC championship game and the national championship game against Alabama. And there's definitely a lot to work with here. I think he's got good footwork. I actually really am a big fan of his footwork. I think his arm is there for the most part, though I would like to see him fix that deep ball a little bit. He had a tendency to underthrow some receivers here and there. But he can fit that ball in the tight window, and I think he's got pretty good accuracy overall. And he also does a nice job squaring his shoulders, and he's really dangerous throwing on the run because of that. So, again, a lot to work with Deshaun Watson, and just the fact that he's overall just a gamer, I think, is someone that Cleveland needs, because as a quarterback, to be successful in this league, not only do you have to be good, from a mechanic standpoint, but you got to be able to lead. And Cleveland has been in need of a leader for so long now, and I think maybe Deshaun Watson might be that guy to lead Cleveland from the bottom of the cellar. So I think Watson might be a really good fit here for the Cleveland Browns at number 12.
Yeah, Watson's a guy. It's hard to find. I mean, other than the interception, it's hard to find anything wrong with his game. You watch him play against Alabama twice. The dude is a stud. All right, Alex, you're up next with the Arizona Cardinals.
There's a lot of good value on this board right now, and I don't want to forget about that. We talked about need a lot, and that's important, but you don't want to miss out on value either. I was tempted to go with O.J. Howard, but just because Bruce Arians seems to hate tight ends, it's hard for me to justify that, even though I think he might be one of the top 2 guys left on the board right now. I'm going to go wide receiver, and, my receivers rankings probably differ from some others. I'm not as high on Mike Williams as other people. I really like John Ross, and Ross fits that vertical attack that Arians' offense demands. I know he's a little similar to some of the other guys on the roster right now, but I think he's a great fit for Arizona. So give me John Ross, the 4.22 man, almost won an island to Arizona at pick 13.
What's the concern level about all the injuries?
He played last year, and, he was able to come back from all that stuff. So I think whenever you have an injury and you come back from it, was it a meniscus or an ACL he's had in his career, and still show that speed, then I think that soothes that concern. So I'm not too worried about it.
Definitely
All
have
right,
that
so
speed,
John
that's for
Ross
sure.
goes off the board there. All right. I like that pick. I mean, there might be similar guys on the roster, but none of them run 4.22.
Exactly.
So, I mean, he's different in that regard. Okay, Philadelphia Eagles are up next. I have that pick, and I know Catrillo, I know you really want Mike Williams.
Just missed it.
I think Corey Davis he's my number one wide receiver. You watch his tape. I know he didn't test because of the ankle injury. I don't care. You put him with the group of wide receivers that they brought in. You only have Alshon Jeffrey probably for a year. So you're going to bring this guy in. He's got speed. The only issue I have is he double catches sometimes. I think that's something he'll work out in the pros. I think he's going to be a really good player for a long time. And you give Carson Wentz, the young wide receiver that he needs, Corey Davis, to the Philadelphia Eagles.
While Corey Davis, I have number 2 on my wide receiver board here, Ian, and it's not a bad pick, but I think with Mike Williams still on the board, I think it's a mistake that the Eagles let him fly by as a receiver. I think he's a top 5 best player.
He's not that fast.
No, I'm talking about as a top 5 player overall. I think is what he is. Meaning let him fly by in terms of not picking him is what I meant to say. No, Corey Davis definitely has more speed, but I just think you have that big target that's so athletic that can go up there and get any ball you throw at him. I think he's got the most reliable hands out of any of these receivers in this draft class, and you need a big playmate. He's going to make that catch for you, and he's tough, he's durable. So I think it would be a mistake if the Eagles passed on him there and go for Corey Davis instead. But I still like Corey Davis, but I just think Mike Williams is a top 5 player in this draft class. That it would be a mistake if the Eagles did so.
Now, because Catrillo, you're the next man up. The Indianapolis Colts are on the clock with pick number 15. I think they would be sprinting to the podium because Leonard Fournette's still there. Would you go Leonard Fournette here?
I actually have Leonard Fournette down a little bit on my running back draft board. I like that. I still like Dalvin Cook number 1 if we're going running back here, just because I get all of his stock has been dropping, but I really don't see what others see on tape as far as the fumbling is concerned and things like that. And that's something you can always work on with ball security and stress that in practice. But you talk about a guy who's got a breathtaking speed and acceleration out of the backfield, tremendous vision. He gives you a lot in the passing game as well. He's a really terrific pass catcher. He's a great route runner as well. I mean, I saw one play on film where he ran a perfect go route down the field and burned him. So this guy is extremely dangerous and versatile. You can do so many things with him, and Indianapolis needs playmakers badly for one of the best quarterbacks out of the 2012 draft in Andrew Luck. So I'm actually going to go Dalvin Cook here for Indianapolis.
I mean, that's a guy that people have been mocking to Indianapolis for a while, but like Catrillo just said, he's been dropping here a little bit over the last couple of weeks. So, all right, so we're up to 16, and somehow Leonard Fournette and O.J. Howard are 2 of the top players in this draft, and they're still sitting there. Alex, what do you think?
Well, I thought one of them was going to be off the board at 15, and I was just going to take the other, make my decision very easy. Now I got to choose between the 2, Fournette and O.J. Howard. You could go either way. You can make a case for either. I think it starts with the ground game, though, and because they still have Dennis Pitta, they were able to bring him back. It was they had to redo the contract, take a pay cut. I think that you're going to take the running back here because I don't think you have that lead guy, and it's got to start with that run game more than it's going to be with O.J. Howard. So I'm going to go with Leonard Fournette as he takes quite the tumble down to 16.
But, man, him running behind Yonda, no, thank you. I'm not going to want to see that 2 times a year.
Yeah, you got Ronnie Stanley there getting better. They got a lot of holes in that line. John Urschel's trying to improve. They did lose Ricky Wagner, but that line, that's where you got to go next to use that offensive line.
So, wow, Fournette really did fall. Fell the whole way to 16. 17, that would be the Washington Redskins. And the Redskins, like the Browns and like the Jets a little bit, seem to find a way to bring drama into their lives no matter what they do. And so I think that I would be remiss if their pick didn't have at least some sort of drama in it. So I think the pick for the Washington Redskins is going to be Pat Mahomes.
Oh, wow. I like it.
Oh, my.
I like it. And you know, that's a me thinking I don't like Pat Mahomes. I don't get why people think he's a first round pick. I'm just banking on the Washington Redskins doing something ridiculous, and that's what this would be.
If hypothetically they drafted Mahomes or a quarterback in the first round, does that mean they're trading Kirk Cousins on draft day, or are they holding on to the quarterback for a year?
Let's just say they hold on to him for a year, because that's the Redskin way.
Yeah. All right, Catrilla, you're the Washington beat writer here. What do you think?
It's a curious pick. I think it sounds like to me a reach. I haven't watched Mahomes, so I really can't comment further than that. But as I've said before, I really don't think any of these quarterbacks are first round worthy. But we've seen 3 now go in the first 17 picks. I would probably expect that the Redskins would probably keep Cousins and have him serve the year so they can still try to win, even though they're not going to, I think. And have Mahomes kind of sit for a year and kind of grow him and be the backup or even the third string, because Colt McCoy's still on the roster too. So they may try and do what the Eagles were planning to do this past year with Carson Wentz. I could see something like that. And then leave Cousins, let Cousins walk at the end of the year. So it's a curious pick. I don't know if I particularly like it for the Redskins there with the way the board is and they have other needs. But it's interesting, that's for sure.
Well, Trillo, you are the next man up with the Tennessee Titans, and your favorite guy, Mike Williams, is still sitting there.
And that is exactly who I take, because Tennessee needs playmakers on the outside. They have a great running game, obviously developing quarterback. And so if you get them some receivers on the outside, this can become a very dangerous offense if you're the Tennessee Titans in a very weak division that they can totally manhandle next year and finally get themselves into the playoffs after they were so close this past year. So I think Mike Williams, without a doubt, is a no-brainer for the Titans.
Moving up next is number 19. This is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The 2 top tight ends are still there in O.J. Howard and David Njoku. Where do you think they go, Alex?
I thought about tight end, but Cameron Brate did well last year, and I'm going to go with just one of the hyper athletes in this draft, similar to Byron Jones, same school and everything, a guy that's 6'4", 220 plus, that jumped out of Indy and put himself on the map. But his tape is strong as well. A guy that can play center field, can play the deep half, can come down the box. He's not the most physical player in the world, but you don't have to be. You don't have to try to clean someone's head off every time. He's a reliable wrap-up tackler, good character kid. Obi Melifonwu out of UConn is the guy I'm talking about here. Great athlete, versatile guy. Could be a dime hybrid player early on. Can play free safety, I think. So Melifonwu was going to do a lot for that Buccaneers secondary.
That's a pick right there, because there's some people who think that he might fall out of the first round entirely. I remember the first time I put his tape on, and I texted you, Alex. I was like, "Have you watched this guy yet?" Mm-hmm. He's something special.
Yeah, I don't see him fall out of the first round, or maybe I don't even see him fall out of the top 28 or so. Be a little more specific.
Coming up next is the Denver Broncos, a team that needs probably offensive line help more than most teams. I would say maybe the only team that needs worse help would probably be the LA Chargers. But I'm going to go offensive line here for the Denver Broncos. I think Forrest Lamp is one of the most consistent guys in this draft. Just so technical. I think you move him in the guard, and he's going to be a really good player for a really long time. It's not a sexy pick, but winning football teams don't necessarily always go for the sexy pick. So I'm going to go with Forrest Lamp to the Denver Broncos at 20.
I like it, yeah. Strong Senior Bowl week. Some people say he's going to play inside, but I think he can play anywhere. Center. They've been working him out at. He played tackle at Western Kentucky. I probably would have gone Ramczyk out of Wisconsin there, or maybe even Garrett Bowles from Utah. But you can't blame the Forrest Lamp pick.
Especially because you don't know about these tackles. I mean, who knows? Ramczyk has the hip injury, or scared about that.
Bowles is an older guy. He's like 24, 25, so that's kind of the knock.
He has had some issues in the past, too. I mean, I know he's moved past him now, but certainly
that's all fair points.
Catrillo, you are up next with the Detroit Lions.
And this is a Lions team that needs a lot of help defensively at every level. And though I think this would still be a very slight reach, I think he's still an early second-round pick, but his stock is rising, and I really do like him a lot. I fell in love with him after watching him at the Senior Bowl in February, and that's Temple's Hassan Reddick. I think that's a great pick for the Lions, just because I say early second round, he's probably not going to be there for the Lions again. So if they really do like this guy and they fall in love with him and they think he can make an impact early, then why not take a chance on him now? Even though he is a little bit of a slight reach, I think at this point of the draft. But I think that's who they take. with Hassan Reddick. Everybody loves his attitude. Great kid. Obviously played a lot of tough football under Matt Rule and Temple. And this is a guy, I think he has some trouble finishing plays and finishing tackles. There's still a lot to work with Hassan Reddick. Great kid to work with. And I think he's a good building block for rebuilding Lions defense.
He fell to 21 an hour mock here. I think there is a above average chance he's gone within the first 15 picks.
I agree. Yeah, that's a great pick, Catrillo. I love Hassan Reddick, and I still think he can play the edge. I mean, maybe not in Detroit, but I think a 3-4 can move him around. He can be, that's how he won in college. Don't forget about how he won, and we got to use him there on the edge as well.
Right, and he's tremendously fast off the ball. You talk about a guy that's the definition of quick and fast. This guy certainly is the case right there. He's got to develop some of those moves, some swim, spin move to be able to break himself free from blocks and try and get pressure on the quarterback if he's going to do that. But there's no question his speed and athleticism is definitely first-round potential, no question.
Quick total aside, it just hit me. This is stupid to say, but this is going on YouTube, right? So people can see our faces,
yes.
Right?
Well, no, it'll just be audio.
Oh, it's just audio. Oh, well,
yeah.
For people that are not, and Ian, tell me if I'm right or wrong on this. People that cannot see, Catrillo looks like Steve from Blue's Clues right now with the green shirt.
You know what? That is a good call.
I was wondering what was kind of making me look at that weird and
very like magentas.
Done inadvertently, man.
Kazora picked it up. Kazora.
Yeah. All right. What I'm also picking up here, pick 22 for the Dolphins is, and I'm running this card up here because I have no idea how he fell, but O.J. Howard's got to go with the Dolphins. He has to be the best player on the board left. I mean, he has a Tunsil fall without the gas mask. So, O.J. Howard's the pick at 22. There's no question about it.
Even with Julius Thomas, though, even making that trade?
Yeah, Julius
Thomas did anything.
This was like a 7th-round pick they traded Thomas for, like Brandon Albert. No, that's not going to affect me. I got to take talent, and O.J. Howard by far is the best guy on the board. I'll make it work. Plus, Miami uses a lot of 2 tight end sets as well, with Deion Sims last year and all that.
With a talent like O.J. Howard, you make it work. That's just what you have to do.
Yeah.
The New York Giants are up next. That defense got really, really good towards the back half of the year. Offensively, they've added some pieces, but I think, here we see a little bit of a run. David Njoku, moving him, having him work the seam with OBJ and then Brandon Marshall on your outside, and plus Sterling Shepard as well. You put Njoku on this team, and watch out. The Giants, on paper, are going to be one of the most talented teams in the NFL. Give me David Njoku, number 23 to the Giants.
Yeah, love that pick.
Still have to worry about offensively with trying to work in Brandon Marshall and ODB, but yeah, no question the Giants can be dangerous offensively.
Plus, I mean, Njoku, he's a guy who wasn't the greatest blocker, but he showed willingness to do it, and I think he's going to be a really, really good player in this draft. He's really good. All right, Catrillo, the Oakland Raiders are up next.
And soon to be Las Vegas Raiders in a couple of years, and what better way to start your NFL career but playing in front of a crowd of angry fans? That ought to be interesting. But
to be fair, Raiders fans are just generally angry. I don't know if the disposition's going to change.
I mean, they haven't really had a whole lot to be happy about except this past year, but then now they're moving, so hence the case there. But running back is a little bit of a need for them. Christian McCaffrey's still on the board, and I think he's an excellent fit for that Oakland offense to go beside Derek Carr, all the weapons they have outside. Again, McCaffrey, one of those really versatile running backs who's really, really good in the pass game. I even argue he's probably maybe a tad better than Dalvin Cook, but again, reliable hands. And although I do worry about his size, I think he's proven that he can be a durable and reliable back to go to, and that can give you 20, 25 carries a game. And so I think this is a good, tough runner that's really athletic and quick and can give you so much on offensively and add another weapon to what's an already really good Raider offense. So I'll go McCaffrey, number 24, to Oakland.
Yeah, that's a great pick. And some people think McCaffrey could go higher. I will go 25 to Houston. Now, we got to give the offensive line some love, don't we? I mean, I know this is a down class for the offensive line. We can't go the whole first round without taking one of the big uglies up front. I think right tackle's a need for the Texans right now after Derek Newton had that horrific knee injury where I think he tore the patellar tendon in both knees last year, one of the worst ones you'll ever see. So it comes down to Ramczyk from Wisconsin, Bowles from Utah. Could go either way. I'm going to go Garrett Bowles from Utah, though. A little bit older of a prospect. You're right, he has that checkered past with, I don't know the history intimately. I think there's some gang affiliation and all that, but one of the nastiest demeanors you have in this offensive line class, a big, strong guy who looks to finish every single block and tested well, too, as a good athlete. So I'm going to go Garrett Bowles out of Utah here to be a plug-and-play starter at right tackle for the Houston Texans.
And if it's something that the Houston Texans needed maybe more than quarterback, maybe it was that right tackle.
Yeah, I thought about quarterback, but with the run at quarterback, you could go Kaiser, but I'll hold off on it.
Bill, the offensive line, they have a team. If you can get a guy who can just not turn the ball over, if you're Houston, they're going to be a really good team.
Yeah,
okay, so going to 26, I'm up, and I think we're having a run here on offensive line. And Ramczyk is still there, and the Seattle Seahawks are offensively really good except for their offensive line. So I think you see Ramczyk go here from Wisconsin. He's a big, nasty guy. I think my notes on him were he looks like and plays like a Wisconsin lineman, and I think that's about all you need to write down for him. Big, nasty kind of guy. Give me Ramczyk there at 26.
Yeah, the two concerns with him, the one you mentioned earlier, the hip injury, and then just the one-year starter. Not a lot of body of work with him to figure out. But I don't know how much you need to see a Wisconsin lineman. 10 games, you know what you have in the guy. It's my opinion.
And the Seahawks are going to play football the way that Wisconsin does. Smash you in the mouth and just roll forward. And I think he's going to be very good with that. All right, Catrillo, the Kansas City Chiefs made it to the playoffs this year. They lost to Pittsburgh in Kansas City. Where do you think they can improve with the draft?
I think the first thing you have to look at is running back. It's not totally set, though I think Spencer Ware did a pretty good job, minus some ball security issues, filling in for the injured Jamal Charles. And with them obviously not returning either, Jamal Charles, I think that Kansas City can still upgrade themselves at running back. And for me personally, and I know the Patriots have already come out and said this, and there may be a couple NFL teams that would knock him off the board because of the big off-the-field issue we had, and I myself personally have him completely off my board. Dead last is Oklahoma's running back Joe Mixon. If I'm an NFL team, this is me personally, I do not want him at all associated with my football team after what he did. However, you can't deny, to be fair, what he can do on tape. If he didn't have this issue with him, which is obviously a very serious issue, he probably is the best running back in this draft class. And the fact that he's still there, and again, his tape I think is first round worthy, though I think, again, with the incident takes him off the board. Andy Reid is a guy who, as we've seen before, Michael Vick's a perfect example of giving guys second opportunities, second chances to prove themselves. And it worked out okay for him with Michael Vick. The Eagles won the division in his first full season taking over at quarterback and made the playoffs. Didn't really do so well after that. But I think being that they have some weapons offensively, Travis Kelce at tight end, and you still have Alex Smith at quarterback, I think having an electric running back like Joe Mixon really helps that Kansas City offense if they so choose to deal with the PR backlash that they would get with this pick. But it's typical Andy Reid, and I think the Chiefs will take a chance on Mixon right here at 27.
I think for everything you just said, Catrillo, that actually wouldn't surprise me on draft night for sure.
Maybe they took Tyreek Hill last year. Granted, that was
right. That too, exactly. That's exactly right.
That's a similar story. It's an interesting pick. Yeah.
All right, Alex, you're up next with the Dallas Cowboys.
You could go in a couple different ways with this. One corner that we haven't talked about a lot in the national media circle, not that we're the national media circle, but it just hasn't been talked about a lot, but it has, at least reported from Matt Miller from Bleacher Report, an NFL draft invite, which is usually a strong indicator of being drafted in the first round, is Colorado's Chidobe Awuzie. This is a super physical guy, got great football IQ, tested really, really well at the combine. He's played safety, he's played in the slot, he's played outside. He can do so much for your defense. I think he's best fit outside corner for the Dallas Cowboys, or just in general. That's how I view Awuzie, but just a hair on fire kind of guy. It's a great tackler, competitive as heck, good athlete. What more do you want? Chidobe Awuzie to the Dallas Cowboys.
I love that guy. I remember watching him earlier this season going, man, this guy's really good. And people were saying that he was like a third or fourth round guy. And it's like, I don't know. I can't find anything wrong with him. And now he's getting talked about as a first-round pick. I love it. All right, up next is the Green Bay Packers. I have that pick, and I'm going to take this might surprise you guys a little bit. I'm going to take a Dory Jackson here.
Ooh, I like it.
I'm going to take a Dory Jackson, a guy who, I know he's not quote-unquote refined, but you talk about a guy who can play in any, he can be a slot cornerback, he can be an outside, he's a playmaker. We talk about Jabril Peppers and, what he's like with the ball in his hands. Dory Jackson's better with the ball in his hands.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever the ball's in his hands, whether it's punt returner, when he's picking the ball off, he's an incredible talent. And I think you see a bit of a run here at cornerback with the Green Bay Packers taking Dory Jackson.
Wow, where are you playing him on the outside or in the slot, or what's your vision for him?
I think he eventually can play on the outside, but I think as a slot guy with how athletic he is, he could cause a lot of just havoc as a slot cornerback, which is a starting position now in the NFL. So let's be honest there.
I think he needs some work in the slot. His footwork can get a little clunky, even though he's a quick guy. I think he's just not natural there, but I think he does project well to the slot down the road.
All right, Catrillo, the Pittsburgh Steelers are up next.
How did Catrillo get the Steelers?
Actually, we can blame D-Jock because I had this list made up beforehand, and everything worked out where, one of the two fans got to pick for their respective teams, and then D-Jock messed it all up. So blame him. Because Catrillo, you are up with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I will drive to wherever you are at, which would be about a 13-hour drive for me to come and get you if you screw this up. So don't mess it up.
Okay. So when we look at this now, Jabril Peppers I see is on the board, which is intriguing to me if I'm Pittsburgh, just from a special team standpoint. We know that kick returner is someone that they really haven't had. But again, there's a lot of things you still have to work with the guy in Jabril Peppers who kind of jumped around last year, was kind of more of a hybrid guy. I don't know how you would really...
Ask the Minnesota Vikings what it's like to take a special teams player in the first round.
Right, exactly. So I don't know if Pittsburgh's willing to go there. But I look at receiver for them, and they still need a good, solid number 2 guy. And there's a couple receivers that come to mind at this point. But one guy who I think...
I already hate this pick.
is really underrated is a guy from Penn State last year who made a lot of big catches last year, and I just think he's really special. He's got reliable hands, incredible athleticism and instincts, good size, I think, really sharp route runner, and does a really good job getting separation. He developed into a really good go-to guy for a freshman quarterback down the stretch of the season. What was a tremendous year for Penn State, and I think the Steelers go and get Chris Godwin.
All right, before we get into this, let's just talk about who's still on the board. And I like Chris Godwin. I don't want it to make us seem like I like Chris Godwin. Okay, so we still have Gary and Conley, Charles Harris, Taco Charlton, Tack McKinley, Buda Baker.
Well, the thing about
Davis.
Conley, I would think if I'm personally with Pittsburgh, I would think about taking him too. But as the records have shown, they haven't taken a quarterback since '97.
Last year.
They took Artie Burns last year.
Oh, I'm sorry, they did take Artie Burns last year. Well, I mean, it hasn't been really.
You already made the pick. The card's in.
So yeah, I'm going Chris. I'm still going Chris Godwin because I think he can bring a lot of playmaking ability to Pittsburgh.
Well, it looks like I'm driving 13 hours.
Yeah, buckle up there. Yeah. Since you mentioned Conley, he's probably going to go higher than this. I guess it's not impossible that he falls. I'm going to go Conley here to Atlanta, just again, a value standpoint. I mean, I like C.J. Goodwin. That's a great story. A guy that was in Steelers training camp, but maybe that's not a guy you want to play all the time in the Super Bowl. So give me Garon Conley from Ohio State. I thought about Buda Baker too, but Conley makes more sense, I think, value-wise.
All right, so now we're at the final pick of the first round, pick number 32. Still a lot of really fantastic players here remaining. But if you're the New Orleans Saints, you took Derek Barnett with your first pick, and maybe this pick will end up going back to New England. Who knows? Whenever they're trying to decide who's the cornerback for New England, whose name is escaping me right now.
Why am I not remember Malcolm Butler?
Malcolm Butler. So who knows if Malcolm Butler ends up going to the Saints? If not, who knows? I do know, though, that you have to continue to just add pieces if you are New Orleans. And New Orleans is a team defensively that it doesn't matter if you can't get after the quarterback, you can't do it. Now, they have some guys on the defensive line that can get after the quarterback. You drafted Derek Barnett. But Taco Charlton's sitting there at number 32. So you add two really good edge guys to play with Cam Jordan and to play with Sheldon Rankins, their number one pick from last year. I'm going to feel really happy if I'm the New Orleans Saints. So I'm going to take Taco Charlton at pick number 32
like that
for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, the one thing, I mean, there's many things wrong with the Saints' defense, Ian, but pass rushing ability has always been some of the biggest needs that the Saints have had for a couple seasons now. So the fact you get two really good edge guys, I think that solves that problem pretty quickly.
So let's talk about real quick before we go over our first round. Guys that are still remaining after our mock first. We still have Charles Harris, Takk McKinley, Alvin Kamara. Let's see who else. Buda Baker's still sitting there.
I'd argue Zay Jones, too, from East Carolina.
Davis. What's that?
Zay Jones.
Zay Jones, East Carolina.
Cam Robinson, T.J. Watt, Kaiser, Kevin King.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. Yeah, but
Sidney Jones,
I think we always talk about all these guys are first rounders, and you actually do the exercise and say, there's only so many spots, only 32 picks, and you realize how difficult it is and how guys are going to fall sometimes.
We talk about how good this edge class is too. In our mock, we had one here. We have Garrett number 1, Solomon Thomas, Derek Barnett, and then Hassan Reddick, if you want to count him. He wouldn't be really an edge guy with Detroit. And then Taco Charlton. So there's still a lot of edge guys, really good edge guys that are remaining. I think it just shows how deep this draft is when it comes to both quarterback and the edge rusher.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent there. I mean, top 50 picks are going to be super deep this year.
Okay, so we've completed our exercise of our mock draft, so our first round. Is there any pick that you guys loved above the rest? Any pick that you thought, wow, I can't believe we got the value there?
I really like the idea of Pat Mahomes to Washington. Ian, I think that's an interesting pick. It's a little off the reservation, but I appreciate the idea, and I think it does make sense when you think about it. I kind of like the Joe Mixon to Kansas City control. I like the idea there. And Green Bay getting a Dory Jackson, I think, makes a lot of sense as well.
And we can't forget O.J. Howard to the Miami Dolphins.
I'm not going to sound like – I don't want to make my own picks sound like the best picks, but I think Baltimore getting Fournette at 16 and the Dolphins getting Howard at 22 are the two best value picks in this draft, in this first round.
And I've been doing mock drafting. I mean, Fanspeak has their mock draft simulator, and the last couple of times I've done it, O.J. Howard has fallen the whole way to the Steelers. And every time I say, I'm like, there's no way that happens. And we do an exercise, and he falls the whole way down to 22. So who knows with the NFL draft? You have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, that'd be a good pick, too, for Pittsburgh if he happens to fall that far.
Right. Ian, we'll go around. Tell me your favorite pick. And this is not about best value or best talent. Just your favorite pick for any reason. Your favorite pick and your least favorite pick in this first round.
My least favorite pick I can tell you right now is Chris Godwin to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh God, I like him. I like him in like the second round. But
even if Martavis Bryant doesn't come back, that would make more sense.
Now you got me thinking.
Because there's no guarantee.
If Martavis doesn't come back, it makes a little bit more sense. Oh, I don't know. I like Juju Smith-Schuster a lot too.
Okay, but I'm saying receiver. I'm saying the position.
Position. I mean, I guess makes sense. I just don't like it. Right, Maybe I just don't like it because Catrilla made it.
That's a good possibility. What is your favorite?
My favorite pick, I think, would be Marshawn Lattimore to the Carolina Panthers. We saw what they were able to do with Josh Norman when he was an All-Pro. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to come in and Lattimore can be an All-Pro right away, but they were a defense that had some really good players on it, and they can be really a good defense again if they get better play in the secondary, and I think he helps them do that. So I think that pick for Carolina, I know they would love it. I know they probably won Fournette there at 8, but with a guy like Lattimore sitting there, you got to do it.
Petrillo, same question to you.
I agree with Ian about Carolina getting Marshawn Lattimore just because they've had it's been the biggest need since Josh Norman left, as I said earlier, and they start to kind of fill that void a little bit, and as they try to start to turn things around. And I also would have to go with Dalvin Cook, even though I know I made the pick, but I think the idea of Dalvin Cook going to Indianapolis, I think really can open things up for Andrew Luck and to finally see some positive outcomes going forward offensively for Indianapolis.
I think Christian McCaffrey is that might be a landing point.
Yeah, I love the idea too for Oakland. Absolutely.
And your least favorite, Petrillo?
Going back on that, I didn't realize that Conley was on the board, so I would hate that pick too if I'm Pittsburgh. I'm sorry. I pulled what the Eagles did with Marcus Smith. That was a classic.
Oh, I forgot about that pick.
Yeah, that was a classic Eagles caught with their pants down, Marcus Smith. So my fault, Steelers fans. I would hate that pick too. I am actually really not that. I guess, lack of a better word, not that stupid. But I think Conley would make sense there. If I had a chance to redo that and fast forward or rewind 5 minutes ago, I would pick Conley. So,
okay, well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
So one thing we didn't talk about is the Tre'Davious White to number 3.
Well, I was gonna say that my favorite and least favorite are sitting in the top 5. So maybe that's kind of easy to do. But Petrillo, I'm sorry, we gotta let you go after the Trey White pick at 3. I know I like him too. I like him in Pittsburgh. I wouldn't like him at Chicago at 3, but we'll let that. Well, it is what it is. Tennessee at 5, though. I really like the Malik Hooker pick for LeBeau. I'm a big fan of him. I know it's easy to say it's the top 5 guys, probably the first or second best safety in this class, but really, really like Malik Hooker, and get him with LeBeau and Ray Horton. I believe Ray Horton's still the DB's coach there. So yeah, that's good cooking.
If I can piggyback off of what Tennessee did, add one more. Mike Williams. He's going to be a big time difference maker.
Petrillo's just picking the guys he chose.
I'm just saying. I just think everyone, including you, Alex, just are selling Mike Williams short a little bit. I think he's one of the best players in this draft, minus Myles Garrett. I really do, and I think he's going to.
I worry about receivers that can't separate. The best receiver is an open receiver, whether you're 5'10" or 6'5", and those big guys like Treadwell last year. Can you separate? Williams is great, contesting the football downfield, long strider, yada yada. Time jumps well, fine. But, can you run the whole route tree? Can you get separation? It's going to be a lot tougher in the NFL than it is in college. Sean Ross can separate. Corey Davis can separate. Mike Williams, they're worried about it. That's why I always prioritize those kinds of receivers. All right, no rebuttal. All right. I guess I win.
Taylor was right.
We shall soon find out. No, I hear you.
They wanted to do this exercise for a while, and Petrillo kept, moving it back because he's a jerk. Thinks because he's getting married and do whatever the hell he wants. So here we are. Finally, we have gotten this done. I think it went really well, and I'm ready for the draft, guys. What about you?
Yeah, excited for next week's draft show as well. To really take another deep dive into this.
Especially that it's in Philly. Definitely can't wait for that. I would love to go, but unfortunately I can't.
Should we do a full 7-rounder next week?
Oh, geez, we'll be here all. I don't know. That might turn into the 3-hour podcast Alex and I did our junior year at Clarion, which I don't know if anybody ever listened to. You remember that, Alex?
I do. We just finished it last week, I think. So I do remember.
Yeah, well, I'm excited too, and as I talked about just top off the show, next week we go back to our traditional full-out breakdown of the 2017 NFL draft class. We'll be talking quarterbacks, receivers, corners, edges, you name it. We'll break down all the positions, and we'll have our top 5 overall prospects. I think we might try another mock, maybe not the whole first round. Maybe we'll do 5 to 10. I know we've done 5 in the past. Maybe we'll extend it to 10 this time around. And we hope to have D-Jock back to join us too. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun for our big and annual NFL draft show next week. So Ian, that went pretty well. I liked it.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's your show. You close it out, Petrillo.
All right, that I will do. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at FFPodcast1. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Ian on Twitter at B104_Hunter. I'm on Twitter at MCATLDN. And make sure we are now on YouTube. Just changed that this past week. Stay tuned for all of our new graphics. I don't know if that'll be on for this week's show, but maybe next week we'll see how that's going. Ian's working on that for us. And we'll have tons of good stuff. So the YouTube channel is at Football Friday. Make sure and that'll be all the latest show links will be there as well as our Twitter page. And still working on a Facebook page, so hopefully we'll have that up soon as well. But remember, big thing, follow the podcast on Twitter, FF Podcast 1, Football Friday on YouTube as well. So for Alex Kozora, for Ian Hunter, and I'm Matt Catrillo, thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of the Football Friday podcast.